What's the cringiest worst examples of butt kissing you've seen at work? I called my boss by his first name when I started out. And my co-worker scolded me after he walked away saying no. You call him Mr. So and so. She'd also always go out and buy him his lunch. Like he cut your maternity leave short and he underpays you. The worst was a guy I worked with at my last job doing HVAC. Because the boss was going to get a full report on whatever crew he worked with that day. If you said something negative about the boss, he was going to tell. If you were a minute or two late coming back from lunch, he had a pic on his phone with the timestamp. If you didn't hang something perfectly level or straight, he'd toss a level on it. Snap a pic. Send it to the boss. He also came in every Sunday and washed all the trucks, with no pay, to make sure we kept a good image. Found out eventually it had nothing to do with the job. He was just dating the boss's daughter and he was trying to prove himself. I work with a woman who threw a baby shower for our managers, not a manager though, wife. Thrown in our office. Meanwhile her equally pregnant friend in the office was invited to the party but received no shower of her own or even an acknowledgement from the suck up. Funny thing is everyone hates the manager so nobody really stayed longer than they had to. Also she tries to call us out for not getting gifts for the manager on National Bosses Day as if him being paid more to duck things up for us isn't enough already. Co-worker would talk up the boss during meetings. MRS. Boss. You're the smartest person I've ever known. I wish I had some of your brains. A colleague tried to feed the manager during lunch saying just one more bite please. Both female but still. So embarrassed to witness that. Hey boss. Here comes the airplane. Not a specific one but I had a colleague we nicknamed Ankles cause that was all you could see sticking out the boss ass. That's probably an incorrectly used apostrophe. Guy at my job would counteract his TTY performance with ass kissing. It helped him keep his job for a very long time. Until he told someone to duck off on a recorded call. Other receptionist at my work is a huge ass kisser. Calls herself head receptionist when she's really just a part-timer that doesn't do her job right. Will constantly have meetings with the bosses and take credit for things other people do. Most recent example is when a client brought us donuts and left them at the front desk. I was in a room but heard the convo between the client and her about the donuts being a gift. This struck a nerve. Taking credit for something that a paying customer did out of kindness seems sociopathic. Fake laughter at the boss's jokes. Laughter that goes on for way too long so that even the boss notices and gets PO'd. Man. When I became a manager all my jokes got so much funnier. I ducking loved it. This ducker at my work was just promoted because he's an ass kisser. Constantly jumps over people to perform a task. But only when the manager is around. That kind of crap. Recently. He wrote on our manager's door, he has a dry erase board for messages. Manager's name is the greatest. Ducking cringe. I hate this dumbus. And I respect my manager less for falling for it. Stories like this make me lose more respect for the manager than the ass kisser. The ass kisser has a goal. Getting ahead. But any manager who falls for this bullshit is an imbecile. My boss sent me out to get her boss a birthday card and gift. Which was all fine and good as it meant an escape from her for an hour or so. The card was nothing out of the ordinary. But the cake was very fancy and not your typical office birthday cake. I then had to swing by Tiffany's to pick up the bracelet that was the actual gift. Just from her to her boss. Expensive gifts to colleagues let alone managers. Were not the done thing there, and it wasn't even like it was a bank or anything high end, so it seemed horribly out of place and blatantly butt kissing. I had a co-worker that went to the boss's apartment to massage his feet. This was actually pre-work. Canada's largest airline had an unqualified secretary screening the applications for pilot positions. She would determine who got interviewed and who got put to the bottom of the pile. Some guys would send her chocolates. Literally. And get an interview 2 days later. Where others had waited years. Others would send flowers. It was close to criminal the way she got bribed. And there were a lot of examples. She was finally heavily demoted for her actions. But she should have been canned. My ducking manager, holy shit, is head of our engineering department. Takes credit for everything when reporting to directors. Overpromises on results and timelines without knowing how long things actually take. Best experience I've had. We had a financial year-end meeting and I am in charge of compiling all production figures and creating a clean report. Even went out of my way to produce some stats to see how we can evaluate ourselves and improve what we do. This ducker starts presenting this thing. With me in the room saying I this and I deride it like that. The director asked him a question about one of the datasets and he did not know and sat there blank. So I just spoke up and explained how I did it. Could see some other people around the table were choked up. The worst bit of bum snorkeling I've seen is someone going to their new boss's house to put up their Christmas tree. At my job there was this guy who kept buying his direct supervisor lunch every day. One time the supervisor asked him why he kept doing it. He responded with the king's gotta read. Everyone in the immediate area cringed super hard at that. Including the supervisor. What are your stories? Dude sounds like he cries when he wanks. Happened recently at work. One particular co-worker is almost insufferable with his behavior. Constant trumpet blowing with his lackluster work. Endless comments about how much money he has. Degrading other team members to get some kind of moral high ground and get in good graces with management. What's more cringe is his posts and interactions on the team member WhatsApp group. Really fake or cheesy crap that definitely is not his character at all. Basically everything that he does involves trying to shitty on someone to look better at his job. Anyway, he thought he was top shitty after one of the managers recently left and applied to take the advertised duty manager role. He was shut down almost immediately and apparently one of the night managers straight up told him that they did not want him to work nights due to nobody wanting to work with him. One of my co-workers knew the branch manager was obsessed with Magic the Gathering. So he pretended to have connections with someone at Wizards where he got free cards. Turns out this guy was actually just buying the cards. One of my other co-workers saw him buying a booster box at a Walmart nearby. He was literally bribing the boss for favors with Magic cards that he paid full price for. The sad thing? It duckin' worked. Everyone knew this dude got preferential treatment. When he ducked things up, manager dude would always cover for him. He got promoted to a position he definitely didn't deserve over someone else who was way more qualified. We even tried letting Bossman know that he was just buying the cards at the Walmart nearby. But he didn't believe us. So yeah. Few thousand in Magic cards got the butt kisser raises worth 5x that. Coming in on a weekend without pay to help the company boss. And ends up being an ongoing routine. As a blackjack craps dealer in a casino I had a floor manager that hated me. The feeling was very mutual. One day I was secret shopped and received a 100% with some outstanding personalized comments on it. The higher ups were so impressed that the head of table games came down from on high to give me 50,000 worth of cash gift cards. Unheard of. We normally get 5,000 buffet vouchers. This all took place in front of the floor who hated me. This reaches in his pocket and hands me a card for an entry into a drawing for a 10,000 cafe credit and tells me I did good. Ducker used my 15 seconds of fame to make himself look good to the debt head. It kinda backfired when I handed it back and said no thanks. I know you don't mean it. Debt head hauled my ass upstairs and asked what I meant. I didn't need the job so I unloaded every single instance of harassment. Sexual harassment. HR investigations. And backed them all up. COVID hit while he was suspended and he was not invited back when they reopened. My immediate supervisor and I were doing a job off-site at a partner company's lab. Like an hour's drive from our company. And we finished our task at like 4:30. And I was like, duck it. Let's end the workday. He insisted on calling the director and inform him we were done working off-site. and ask him to officially give us permission to go home a half hour early. The director was like, "You called and bothered me to ask this? Just go home. Seriously. You two are out in the field because you're supposed to be able to make decisions like this on your own." The girl my boss hired to help me and I trained started having an affair with the second in command. For the next year I got to watch her feed him fruit with her mouth while doing almost nothing all day. She would go on 2 hours lunches. Got promoted. A raise, and I had to continue to take the load of the work she was initially hired for. Would have told his wife. Blowing the CEO in the conference room, which has a huge window in it. However, no butt kissing was involved. I used to work with a girl who would always change her voice whenever she would interact with our boss to try and seem SI. Her voice would literally go up several octaves in tone, and she would adopt this valley girl type of inflection. If he wasn't around, she talked completely different. I heard so many people trip over themselves to say we are AJS so THRNK fell to HAV jobs at the beginning of the pandemic when my old company was slashing benefits, pausing raises, conducting layoffs, requiring 12-hour shifts, all while members of the executive team were taking Zooms from their second homes. Seriously. Literally any complaint or negativity was met with that line. There were a handful of times when leadership got called out on a lie or a hypocritical statement, and some middle manager would spring into action to defend them. Having a job is great, but don't sell out your dignity so some rich tech bros can get richer. My current boss is an absolute bastard. Just the most cringe-worthy asshole you'll ever meet. He's a gaslighter and pops his temper at anything remotely incorrect. But the worst thing is when his boss is around and he praises the work we do and treats us like his best friends in front of his boss. He'll also pass our ideas off to his boss as his own and acts like a puppy, rolling over for belly rubs whenever his boss tells him he's got a good idea. I ducking hate the CNT. If my wife wasn't pregnant and I didn't need the money, I'd have burned my bridges long ago and told him what I think. The only saving grace at the moment is one of the lads has just handed his notice in because he can't stand the boss's shit and will be having an exit interview. I can't wait. I used to work at a huge investment bank on a trading floor. For context, the building occupied a block in Nick, and the trading floor was the size of the entire footprint of the building. Like a 5-minute walk there and back to go from one end of the floor to the other. Hundreds of traders. The managing director had a trading station right in the middle of the floor. And me and another lowly underling had our trading stations way on the edge. The MD had a booming voice and was actually quite funny. And had the BDE to just yell shit out. Whenever he said anything even remotely amusing, the dude next to me would stand up, cup his hands around his mouth and unironically fake laugh at top volume. After 6 months the MD moved floors, and as far as I know they never ever spoke. Dude was kissing ass 6 levels above him and making all 300 traders on that floor die inside even faster than they already were. I quit and I live in a cabin in the woods now. I had a boss who was into finer things of life. Good quality clothes, expensive wine, exotic food, cigars from all over the planet, heaps of watches and expensive cars type thing. So a co-worker of mine, within 2 weeks of beginning, bought my boss some cuffing worth in the hundreds. Over the course of 2 years this co-worker became known as a yes man. Never disagreed with the boss at all. He also self-appointed himself as his right-hand man, always telling other people how to do things because that's how the boss would want it. Kinda like a less aggressive version of Dwight from The Office. Anyway, a position officially opens up to become supervisor, second highest rank, of the department. Naturally my co-worker went for it, telling everywhere would listen he would get it because the boss promised it. What he didn't know is that the boss was leaving. Named the then supervisor as his successor, who then picked someone who had been working there for about 9 months. Needless to say my co-worker has been acting very distant to the new manager and supervisor. I'm currently in a Zoom training for a job. Our personal team leader is very young and this was his first job. He loves to talk about himself. Like it's getting to the point where you can see other team leaders are getting annoyed with him. Anyways, there is a kid in my cluster and I had to stay overtime to complete some documents. This kid the entire time is the only other person staying in the Zoom and he just keeps, "Wow Steve, you are just so good at your job. I want to be like you, Steve." Of course Steve loves to talk about himself, so he just talks and talks and talks. While I'm sitting here like, guys, let me get my ducking work done. It's been 2 weeks and that guy just kisses his ass all day every day. It's cringeworthy. This girl was constantly kissing the ass of a manager everyone hated. To the point she said she guessed she was guilty of larceny that they later found video of the manager committing. Wait, she took the fall for the manager? Why? I was given a coworker, a young boy, to learn the ropes of the CNC machine I operated, manual custom stairs CNC. I had picked up he was my replacement. I had asked for the promised raise a week earlier. When in the bathroom, never gossip in the bathroom. There's always someone there. He sucked up to our employer, even to the point of bringing in pastries for him, until he got promised my position. Fine. I'm sick and tired of this low wage company anyway. So I educated him in how I operated the CNC, using wood blocks as spacers. As soon as he got the hang of things I was fired. On my way out I threw away the custom made, by me, spacers. Turns out he never replaced them. Making $250. 000 in wrong sized stairs in the 4 months until it was discovered. Then he was fired as well and they tried to sue me. Still love the look on the bastard's face. He looked like a pug. Eyes popping out screaming his head off. Told him to stfoo and gfo or he'd get a good beating. Most satisfying result ever. I applied to go to a private middle school when I was 10. And I still can't believe how much the application process brought out the worst in people. When we had an on-campus tour with the other applicants and their parents, people were going so far to kiss the tour guide's ass that the parents were literally writing notes on paper as if they were going to be quizzed. I saw kids ask unnecessary questions just to show that they were good at certain subjects. At one point a kid stubbed his toe and swore. And then was like, "Oh my god. I apologize. I didn't mean to say that." It was some of the cringiest kiss arsing from both kids and parents that makes me never want to apply to a school again. We had a manager that wasn't really qualified for his job and loved it when people called him for help doing their basic job duties. To this day I don't know if a couple of my coworkers were thoroughly incompetent or just sucking up because they couldn't do anything on their own. I'll give you 3 guesses on who avoided the layoffs. At an old job, we had an app for group communications. A guy that had just been promoted to assistant manager would put out inspirational messages randomly. So you would get a notification from this app. Open it up and read something like, "Hello everyone. I hope everyone is having a terrific day. Let's try to come to work with positivity and good energy. Remember, what you put out into the universe is what you get back. So let's put that positivity out there and attack the day with that mindset." Worst part was, his personality didn't match up with the messages. So he was relatively cool in person, but was clearly putting out these messages to look good for the owners. Coworker named both his children after boss owner. You're a damn liar. I was in a group interview once where I was one of probably 12-15 people. Group interviews are pure gold for ass kissing. In that interview, we had a guy that tripped over a table and knocked it over because he wanted to be the first one to shake the interviewer's hands. Also a lot of, "And if you pick me then I will bring this talent to the company." Bullshit. That's a tough atmosphere. Though, I've only been on one group interview, and it was just awful. I didn't even want the job. But the ones who did want it did everything they could to get noticed. It's hard to blame them in certain markets when they kiss ass so much during that process. I don't remember the exact context, but the boss sent out some email about the office doing well and some guy replied all accidentally thanking the boss for his exceptional leadership and dedication or some bullshit. Me and my cube neighbor audibly groaned. The thing is, we are an engineering services firm. The boss in question is the regional office manager, and at the end of the day, we do well based on the execution of the engineering packages and the practice manager's ability to sell more work. The regional office manager doesn't get work. He manages the financials of the office. Anyway, Mr. Brownnoser is a low-level manager now. It doesn't mean much, but it puts him on the path to a cush job down the road. Not to mention fat bonuses. Girl would go in the back and rub our boss's back. I used to have a guy that was on a temporary contract that would wait in the parking lot before I got there. He would jump out when I did so he could walk in with me. "What do you got for me to do today, boss?" "Well man, right now, I got a duck off attitude going on because I don't want to be talked to at the ungodly hour of 4:45 AM about ass kissing nonsense as soon as I get out of the car." Guy ended up getting let go for poor performance, which explains the ass kissing. I used to work at a restaurant and one of the servers was having an affair with the general manager. I'm pretty sure she was literally a butt kisser. She was awful to work with and a total snob. She got paid more than everyone else. She didn't have the minimum wage that servers got. Her paycheck said she was a cook and she made an extra $2 hour plus tips. She always got the good section. It was a seat yourself kind of place, so some sections were consistently better than others for tips, and she refused to pull her weight or help anyone when they were busy, but would expect help from others when she was busy. Heck, even when she wasn't busy she'd expect people to help her, like pass her tables or make her drinks for her, which was part of the server's job. And she was allowed to do that because she was literally ducking the boss in the office during work. That's how everyone knew. Are chronic question askers arguably ass kissers? I think there is a clear distinct difference between those that ask questions because they're genuinely interested or need an answer and those that ask questions just because they want their voice heard. Then there's those who ask questions not because they care or want the answer but because they want the meeting to continue just long enough to roll into lunch or home time. These ones are the heroes of the workplace. English is only my second language, and I was confused for second till of the term butt kissing and what it has to do with work. I worked at a digital marketing startup for about a year. Most of the employees were in their early to mid 20s, so was I at the time. And management absolutely played favorites. Working late hours was a solid way to get management to notice you, even if your work didn't necessitate staying late. I once got tea for leaving at 5:30. Even after working a full 8 hours and getting all my work done. One morning we were all having a company meeting and one guy mentioned how tired he was since he stayed in the office until 10 PM the previous night. Immediately, this other guy loudly says, "Well, I was here until 11. Then he literally looked around to make sure management heard him